Thanks very much for coming, everybody. If you, there are a handful of people that were here 3 years ago or so. So those who were here see a big difference today as compared to 3 years ago. So my name is Jay. I'm the founder of Discover Year. So thank you very much for coming. It's a thrill to see everybody here, all the students and all the parents, and we have a number of mentors and coaches from the program here as well. So it's very exciting, and I wanted to start just by telling everybody here that you're part of both the majority and the minority. You're part of the majority because if you're a student in grade 12 right now, most people have absolutely no idea what they want to do for the rest of their life at your age, and that's totally fine and normal. You're in the minority of people who are willing to actually say, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I'll consider a new and innovative program. And you are in the serious minority of people. You probably already know that. So thanks for coming. And the story that I've been sharing recently to illustrate the point, to the challenge, the reason why we started the Discover Year. I was at a school in the OCDSB, the public board, here in Ottawa not too long ago. And we had a table, as you often do at the college and university fairs, we had a table set up, and a young lady came up, we'll call her Susie. She came up to the booth and she said, hi, can I do a gap year after my undergraduate degree? And I said, who am I to say no? Of course you can. You can do a gap year anywhere. I met a lady the other day, she's 55 doing a gap year. You can do it anytime you want. And I said, can I ask why? Do you want to go to university before you do your gap year? She said, oh, I gotta go right now. Gotta go right away, I gotta go, there's no question, I'm going to university next year, it's a done deal. And I said, oh, okay, great. Why do you want to go next year? She said, bragging rights. Legitimately, she said bragging rights. I hope that's a shock to all of you. It wasn't really a shock to me anymore, but it's certainly a syndrome. It's a symptom, I think. She said bragging rights, and I said, help me understand. I don't know what that means. She said, well, my mom graduated university when she was 21. I need to graduate university when I'm 21. She told me so. And I said, okay, do you know what you want to study? And she said, oh, I think I'm going to do psychology. I don't really know, doesn't matter. I'm just going to go to university. And I said, do you think it's important that you be excited about something in university? She said, no, it doesn't matter. I just want to get it done. Then I can do a gap year later. And I don't know if anybody here can tell me, certainly some of you can now, but anybody new to the program, what's the number one most important factor for success? Call it university or college, call it anything in life. What's the number one thing that's required to be successful? Yes, what's your name? Adam, what is it?
A plan.
A plan? I would say that's secondary. That's a good one, though. It's good to have a plan. We work on plans a lot, Discover Year. Connor, let's give this gentleman a try. He's new to the group. What's your name?
Stuart.
Stuart, what do you think?
I'm going to say determination.
Determination, also very important, something that we focus on a lot here. Again, that comes slightly secondary. Connor?
I was going to say passion or interest in what you're doing.
Interest. Passion is an extreme version of interest, but interest is number one. This is not Jay Gosselin talking. This is research in psychology over many, many decades now. Interest is number one. If you want to do well on university or college campuses, you also have to have a certain set of skills, mostly related to social and emotional skills, self-management, time management, etc. But the number one thing is interest. I would say that in my time spent on campuses working at the University of Ottawa, great place. Not to denigrate the university at all, love it there. My wife still works there. But most students I met, totally uninterested in their education. They were just going through the motions. Lots of people also interested. Those people often were a little bit older. So it's really important to be interested in what you're doing in university. That's partly why we started the Discover Year. And I should mention as well, I'm very open. I like to have discourse and questions. There'll be lots of time for questions in your smaller groups later after the kind of information session. But if you have a question you'd like to share, let us know. And online folks, sorry, I just forgot to mention that, but you can chat your questions. And Julia, who's here, she's our wonderful communications intern, she can relay those questions to us. So very quickly, why did we start the Discover Year? We started it because, in fact, there is actually a mental health crisis on university and college campuses across Canada and the United States. Why do we call it a crisis? 65% of students, this was last year, data from last year I believe, very recent. This is 25,000 students polled across Ontario, this specific poll. 65% of students said at least one time in the last calendar year, they had such extreme anxiety that they were not able to operate on a regular basis, 65%. 46% said at least one time in the last calendar year they were so depressed that they could not get out of bed for 24 hours. 46%, that's, no mathematician, that's almost 50%, almost half of the population on campuses, right? We don't do a lot of math here, FYI, but maybe we should. 14% of students across Canada, again, not a number that's well published, it's a few years old, 14% of students on post-secondary campuses drop out before the end of their first year. However many hundreds of thousands of students there are on campuses, that's a huge number, 14%. We don't hear about it all that often. You all certainly probably know people, but people are not very apt to share their stories. 89% of students in a poll that RBC and the Canadian Career Foundation did, they polled thousands of students upon graduation from university. They said, what do you wish you had done differently? 89% said, I wish I had built a professional network and experience before leaving, because now I have my education, I'm out the door, I don't know anybody to hire me, I don't have any real influence in the market. So, any medical professionals? I know that there's some parents of our current students that are not necessarily here, but any medical professionals here? And you don't have to participate, but I'm willing to bet of the medical professionals I know, when we ask them questions like, what can we do to have a healthier population? They say things like, more exercise, better diet, all preventative measures. And I like to use that analogy because I think that's exactly what we do here at Discover Year. This program is preventative to students plummeting, so to speak, when they arrive on post-secondary campuses or in their career. We buttress a lot of the skills, attitudes, and behaviors that are necessary for high performance, which we'll talk about. And the difference is, again, the research shows, but certainly my own observations, are that most people are just getting by on university and colleges campuses. They just want the paper. Give me the paper, I'll give you the grades, you give me the paper, it's a deal, I'll move on. We'll forget this even happened, basically. They're just getting by. They're just getting by. What we do here is help students thrive, and there's a number of our current and former students here that will be able to share their stories with you. But the term thrive is exactly what they're doing, and I'll tell you some of their stories, they'll tell them as well. But it's really, really important to understand that a lot of people don't need a gap year to be okay, but almost everybody could use one to thrive more in their lives, in my opinion, in our day and age today in 2018. So how do we help? Most people want the details on kind of what is a Discover Year. It's very new, it's very different. It takes people a little bit of time to wrap their heads around what exactly we do. So there's three basic buckets to the program, three areas of concern for us. The first is experiential learning. And in the program, students work, they travel, and they do a community service project in small teams. The working component, essentially our philosophy is we help people learn how to fish, we don't give them a fish. So by nature, most of the people that are in our network are career professionals who will be instructing students on how to go about proactively and effectively getting a job. We're not a group that will give jobs to anybody. We have an incredible network, which we'll talk a little bit about. But in the work period, students here can tell you what they're up to. They're working retail, they're doing construction, they're doing landscaping, they're working at restaurants, at the mall, customer service, student level jobs, because that's where they're at in their lives. None of us were amazing professionals when we were 18. We scraped the bottom of the barrel, we did the things that we didn't like to do, and we learned that we don't want to do those. That's what our students are doing. If they're able and capable and interested in a particular field, sure, we'll support them in that, but by and large, they're doing student jobs. Any questions on the work? About 30 hours a week recommended. Everything in our program is somewhat flexible, depends on the students. Some work less, some work more, but it's around 30 hours a week that students should be working during the work terms. And I'll explain the phases a little bit later. The travel portion, which is coming pretty quickly, the students are always very excited about that. It's 4 to 6 weeks over the month of February. The intention here is that students learn adaptability, flexibility, in many cases, cultural awareness. They learn a lot of things that cannot be learned through anything other than traveling on the Camino Trail for a month on your own and walking how many miles?
500 kilometers?
500 kilometers over the span of a month with a buddy. or going to Germany and meeting people on the train, or wherever it is they decide to go. There's a lot that you cannot learn really any other way than by going to a foreign place on your own. Or a domestic place, but that's a little bit outside of Ottawa. So the travel period is 4 to 6 weeks. We don't tell students where to go. We support them in their journey. We don't do the research for them. We don't book the tickets. We don't tell them what to do. We just support them in figuring out their plan for a month-long period of travel. This year, again, the students are, there's many more students in the program this year. They're going to some amazing places, or they're planning on it anyways. Some of them are learning that they need to save a little bit more money. That's part of the process. They're going to some pretty interesting places: South Africa, New Zealand, Argentina, Europe, China, Japan, Indonesia. Parents are like, dude, sign me up, right? I want to do that. So it's really important, though, that they do what they want to do that month. It has to be educational in the broadest sense. They can't lie on a beach and sip pina coladas, but ultimately there's a whole host of things they can get up to. Community service project is not volunteering per se. It's not that you sign up to do some activity that's already pre-designed. It's the students designing something that they want to do in the community. So this year, let's talk about the first year. They did a career Kickstarter, a job search workshop for other students. They wanted to impart the lessons that they learned in the year to other students coming up through high school. Last year, they built these amazing literature houses. So it's a take a book, leave a book. They posted them around Ottawa, so they wanted to work on literacy in the neighborhoods. This year, they have all kinds of great ideas about helping the homeless and animal shelters and people overseas, women's rights. I can't remember, there's a whole host. They're thinking about these things now. They'll implement something in small teams by the end of the year. It's a lot of information, I understand. Any questions? Any jokes to share? I won't tell my jokes. I'm a dad now and I'm terrible jokes. So it's crazy how fast it happens. It's like the moment the baby's born, jokes out the window. This is the information heavy part, I apologize. But it is stuff that people ask a lot of questions on. So that's the first part, experiential learning. It's largely an experiential learning program. Some of the differences between us and any other kind of experiential program is the transfer learning that students will undergo in the program. So the self-discovery portion, every student in our program gets an amazing, what we call life path coach. This is their own individual coach that they work with. These people do a whole host of different things in life, but ultimately they are trained and deliver powerful questions to the students. They help guide them through their process in the year. They talk about things that the student needs to talk about, but they take it through psychometric testing, different analyses, different assessments. They talk about what's going on in life. They help them structure goals. And more than anything, they're an independent party who, for no other reason other than wanting to help society, is volunteering. They're just volunteering their time to help young people because they think it's a good thing to do, and they have great skills to do that. I'm sorry. People that know me know I cry pretty much every time at these things. I apologize. I'd love to say I'm working on it, but it's not an active process. So they get their coach. 12 sessions over the course of the year, once a month, in addition to all the regular programming that we do. So lots of exercises, lots of self-exploration. Self-awareness is a big part of the program. And what's, I would say, most distinct about the Discover Year as compared to other types of experiential learning programs at this age is that we meet every week. So we have enough class time hours to be considered, and we are considered at a formal post-secondary institution in Canada. So the parents love to hear that you can use RESPs. It's a tuition tax write-off, tuition tax credit, pardon me, for the program. But we have 8 hours, 9 hours of class time every week, where we come together mostly at Pineview. We also do other things. We go around town and visit workplaces, that kind of thing. But we have workshops to help students. So the structure of a Wednesday, typically 3 hours in the morning, we do workshops like giving and receiving feedback, intercultural communication, diversity inclusion in the workplace, negotiation skills, time management, personal financial management, active listening, nonverbal communication, like over 30 different workshops. We're delivered some by me, some by amazing volunteers that we have to help students develop the skills. The way that we chose these workshops is based on hundreds of interactions I had with employers and lots of research that in my line of work we read a lot of the literature all the time, and employers everywhere are saying, here's what we need and here's what's missing. And those two things are basically the same right now. So we focus on things, soft skills, people call them, teamwork, communication, initiative, proactivity, time management, organizational skills, etc. That's the morning of our workshops, and then for an hour and a half we have these amazing career panels where we invite a few of our amazing mentors in every week. We have over 100, again, volunteers who are members of our community around Ottawa and elsewhere, and they come in and they share about their careers. So next week we happen to have one of the top 100 most powerful women in Canada. Her name is Sarah. She's on the panel. We have a gentleman who owns his own roofing company, and we have another gentleman who is the associate director for Outward Boundless, the name of the school. Last week we had a career professional. We had one of the owners of Escape Manor. We had people, sorry, that was 2 weeks ago. We had a professor at Carleton. We have a whole gamut of all kinds of amazing people. They come in here, they tell us that A, they had no idea what they wanted when they were 18 either. They tell us about what they do in their careers, what excites them about those careers, what skills they need, and the students have the opportunity to ask them questions. Those people are also available down the road if students are interested in their line of work. Amazing people. I always tell parents, if you don't believe me, go on the website, look at the team page. Those are real people. They're awesome. And your students, or if you are a student now, it's harder to appreciate when you're 18. But this network of people is life-changing. Like literally could change your life. The connections that our students make if they take advantage of it, which sometimes they don't, but these people are incredible. And then we have a couple of our afternoon facilitators that are here as well today. So this is all in one day still. And then at the end of the day, there's 3 hours of roundtable discussions. These very tables, students, 4, 5, 6 of them sit around a table. They have their own facilitator at each table. We're, again, trained, amazing people. And they guide them through a discussion about what's happening at work, how can it be better, what challenges are you coming up against, what's going on emotionally for you, what do you want to share. They do elevator speech work every week, they tell stories, communication skills, critical thinking, and more than anything else, they build really important emotional bonds with each other. In the program, they learn a lot about diversity and communication. That's kind of the what of the program. I apologize, I know that's an information-heavy component. Any questions on any of that stuff? Yes?
For the coaching, how do you pair up with students with coach?
Great question. So how do we pair up? I'm very proud. So the pairing process for the coaches and the students, basically we actually asked the students to do a really interesting personality assessment called Bank Codes. So it's a values-based communication tool. The students are asked to do that. Some of them do it, some of them don't. But we use that as well as my knowledge of what I've seen from the students and their interests that we've heard about, and then the personalities, interests of the coaches. Yeah, so we can always make switches. We haven't had to do that yet, but it's always possible if it's not a good fit. Yeah. Anything else on this part?
How many students do you have in your thing?
This year we have 26 students, and actually, so those folks that are online, I think there's some maybe that are in Ottawa, but largely they're in the Greater Toronto area, including Lauren, who's the program director in Toronto. There's 2 students in our pilot project in Toronto this year, 24 in the program in Ottawa, which is a huge surge. The last 2 years we graduated 4 students each year. So it's nice to know that the word is starting to spread. And the proof, as they say, is in the pudding. So I want to share a couple of stories, but I think it's really important to say, okay, here's the things that we do. And these here are the 3 pillars. These are the desired outcomes. This is what we're ultimately focusing on, if we could simplify it down to 3 things. We're helping students build actual self-confidence. Not false self-confidence, but actual deep-seated confidence in who they are and a belief and understanding that who they are is just fine, and helping them find their ideal self. Self-awareness, so really understanding what are their own interests, values, and strengths. I would say I work with a lot of corporate groups as well. That's how I actually make a living. And the large majority of those folks, just like our students, really don't actually know the truth about what's important to them, who they are, what they like to do, what they're excellent at. Our society doesn't really lend a lot of time to people to figure these things out. So we focus a lot on self-awareness. And the third is adaptability. One of the most important, some would say the most important career skill for the 21st century. It hasn't really changed, though. It's always been incredibly important. And sometimes students have a lot of difficulty being adaptable at their age because they've kind of been told what to do for the last forever, basically. So we help them figure that out. So my favorite part of all this is the stories. So you'll hear direct stories from the students and some of the parents as well, but I wanted to share a few because I get some insights that a lot of people don't. So when we talk about confidence, this young lady here, her mother's here, Moira's here. This lady's name is Kate. Kate, when she came to the program, she identified specifically that she wanted to work on self-confidence. She had graduated actually from the University of Ottawa, and she was still feeling a significant lack of confidence in, being who she wanted to be, being her authentic self, being able to participate socially, etc. Kate now lives in Ireland, so she was in our first cohort of students 2 years ago. She graduated the program. I can tell you more stories, but she did a lot of cool things during the program, including a trip on her own to Boston. She didn't go far. She went for a week to Boston. That was her travel. And she wanted to travel on her own and see what it was like to eat dinner in a restaurant on her own and to find her way around the new city. And then she up and moved, much to her mother's dismay, to Ireland, where she got a job working for IBM Ireland within the span of 2 weeks. Without any contacts when she went there, she just decided all these mentors, and her words, not mine, she said all these people that came in on the panels, they had been so many places, they learned so much from it, it inspired me to go and have that experience as well. So she's on a 3-year visa. Hopefully she doesn't stay that long, Moira. But she's on a 3-year visa and she's doing amazing things. She just got promoted the other day. Like, she's only been there for 3 months, 4 months, not even. 4 months working, she got promoted. This in a world where everybody tells us constantly that young people have enormous difficulty getting jobs. She had never traveled at all on her own, if I'm not mistaken, before she came to Discover Year. This is Sophia. Sophia's brother is here as well, so that's our first multi-generation, multi-sibling family. Nick's in the program this year. Sophia graduated last year. Sophia also identified confidence as something that she wanted to work on in the program specifically. She had traveled a little bit more, rarely on her own. Sophia now goes to school in Sweden. She decided partway through the year that she wanted to study in Europe. And she upped and went to Sweden, and her mom, who I think is coming maybe in a little bit. Oh, there she is. Thank you. Hi, Nadja. I'll let you say it yourself a little bit later, but I love getting Nadja's emails because Sophia is basically transformed. I don't know if that's the right word that Nadja was used, but she's living a beautiful life in Sweden, doing extremely well, top in her class, or among the top in her class, involved socially. She's thriving. That's the only word to describe it. Kamal, we can't see you right now, but Kamal is online, and in terms of self-awareness, Kamal came to the program. He was in our first year. I was his coach. I was his life path coach that year, and Kamal, I hope you're laughing right now, I can't see you. But he came in, and for the first many months, Kamal was determined to do a program at college that was airplane technician program. I always get the name wrong, but he wanted to be an airplane technician. And if you've ever met Kamal, most of you haven't, he is, like, within seconds you would realize he's the most creative person you've probably ever met. So I was shocked at his decision to do this program, but he was dead set on, he was studying regularly and he was pushing through. And then every once in a while he would come to our life path coaching session and I would say, oh, what happened today, Kamal? What are you up to? And he would say, what did I do today? Oh, I was just skateboarding on the street and then I met this guy, who's a really cool guy. I DJ'd his party that night. And then I went home and I wrote a poem about it. And now I'm writing a song, actually. I'm putting out an EP in a few months. And then he'd be like, oh, but I'm still studying for the thing. I'm studying for the airplane again. And so I asked him a lot of questions over the course of the year. And it took him the better part of a year, I had to admit, on his own, to understand really what he cared about as opposed to what he thought, what he was anchored to do something because he thought it was going to be a stable living for himself. Now he is a full-time student at the Toronto Film School. He was in a documentary. He's creating his own documentary. He's part owner in a music studio. And about a million other things that I don't have time to tell you right now, but you get the point that he kind of went the other way at the end of his Discover Year. Again, thriving is the only word. Isaac is also online right now. Hi, Isaac. Isaac is a student at Concordia right now. Isaac went to Vietnam for his travel period, and one of my favorite stories about when he came back is he said, you could see it in his face, it was like this complete change in perspective because he said, I went to Vietnam, and if I had never gone, I would never realize that there are cultures in the world that prioritize personal relationships. In Canada, it's all about work. Where do you work? What do you do? What's your job? And he went there, and he said he went into coffee shops, and people would take like 15 minutes to serve you. They didn't really care. They were having a conversation that was more important to them than serving you and making money. And that was really, you could see it when he described it. It was a really life-changing experience in his eyes, and that made him understand and realize how important relationships are to him, and how much he wanted to make sure that was a focal point moving forward, even though he obviously has to work. It was really important. I think Josh is coming in a few minutes. His mom is here, but he had class tonight. We talk about adaptability, Josh. In his first semester at university, he goes to Carleton in computer science and psychology. I just was saying, gosh, I'm going to hug everybody before you leave. Yeah, they're very excited about it. Again, Josh can share his story a little bit later, but Josh was in his first semester at university doing full-time studies. He was teaching English online to students in China, and he was working with his brother on a technology project. And what's really cool about Josh is that one day he realized, this is too much for me. I'm doing too much right now. He was doing like martial arts as well. And he said, I need to stop the English. I need to change something else. Whereas I think most students in that stage of life would just keep doing what they're doing, not understanding that there's a way to change. And the last story for now, at least, this young lady, her name is Aurelia. She's not here tonight, but I actually spoke with her earlier. So Aurelia, breathe. So Aurelia is currently working at Second Cup here in Ottawa. She worked there for her year in Discovery as well. She graduated last year in Discovery year. She had a lot of mental health issues, which many of our students do. Many of our mentors and coaches do as well. That's one thing that we definitely do is normalize mental health challenges, among many other things. But she had significant anxiety, and I chatted with her on the phone earlier. That's why she's comfortable with me sharing this with you, because I asked her. She said, tell them anything you want, Jay. She said, you can tell them about the anxiety, you can tell them about the paralysis in decision making before I came to Discovery here. They were very, very, very real issues for her. She was supposed to be doing a hair apprenticeship. That was her goal throughout the year, and she had a stylist lined up in Carleton Place. She was going to work with them. Come June, at the end of the program, she was supposed to start in a month. She sent them an email and said, hey, I'm ready for the internship. Let me know what the process is. I'll get started. They wrote back a quick email saying, sorry, really, things have changed here. We no longer have space for you. Which she knew through our program that's not a professional way to behave. However, she said to her coach, who is Moira, who's here, she said, a year ago, I would have felt like things were falling apart. Now I can see that they're falling into place. That's an 18-year-old. She works at Second Cup. She just told me right now she was headhunted, her words, by a regular client who wants to pull her into the government. And she's in the, it's a secret level, whatever. She's in the process of being taken on in the government, and it's a job that she really wants. She may or may not go to post-secondary, I don't know. That's not a fundamental aspect of our program. Most of our students do, but it's not something we force anybody to do. She may in the future, but again, we live in a world where everybody tells students, and students often say themselves, it's impossible to get a job. Here's a young person, we'll never know if she would have been recruited if she did Discovery or not. Don't know. One thing that's for sure though, is that she did her job extremely well. Part of that is because of the program. Everyone that comes to our program, every student absolutely has the capacity to be a high achiever, to be a high performer. We just help them get there. That's all we do. We provide them with support, and very proud of all of them. And one thing that's really important to note too, it's always, and it's getting 3 years, I feel like we're really just getting a handle on being able to articulate this stuff now, but the real difference with Discovery as compared to others, there's other places that we'll go. You can get career coaching, you can get experiential learning, you can get a lot of different things that we offer. The one thing that I honestly believe nobody out there that I've ever seen offers is the environment. It's ridiculous. Like I have a son, and all of a sudden, I mean, I cried before the sun, but still, it's much worse now. It's honestly much worse. The laughter helps, so thank you. Feel free to laugh at any time, even if it's not funny. So the environment is different, and how is it different? So we implement, so I'm by trade now a career coach. That's what I would classify myself as. And I'm a big fan of positive psychology, which I've studied and which we implement here. Positive psychology is the scientific study of human flourishing, is how it's defined. So it's all about optimization of lives, not merely pulling people out of a hole, but also helping them understand how they can thrive, how they can be great in life. It's largely based in character strengths. So we do a lot of work around character, things like gratitude, generosity, perseverance, fairness, appreciation of beauty, spirituality, love, like in the broad sense, love, social intelligence, creativity, curiosity. So we help students understand what those things mean, which I think they've heard a lot before, but don't really have a good grasp on. Humanistic counseling is what we use in the sense that we ask questions. We don't direct students, we don't tell them what they need to do. We sometimes suggest things very firmly, but we don't tell them what to do. They're not required to do any specific thing in the program other than be committed to the program at large. They don't have to do their homework if they don't want to. They don't have to do anything other than show up and be there for their colleagues and for their classmates. But we ask them questions. They've been told what to do for long enough. Now's the time that they need to start understanding how to interpret the questions they're being asked and how to act on them. Authoritative coaching relates to an environment in which people, not only students, but people would be in a highly empathetic, highly understanding and supportive environment, while at the same time being challenged in all the right ways, I would say. So I think that there's very few organizations in our culture today that do this well. There are highly empathetic individuals and organizations that are highly authoritative or directive places. There are very few people that pair those things well. I think that's one thing that we do extremely well. So ultimately what we do, Edward Deci is a psychologist. He developed something called the self-determination theory over 50 years of research. We operate based on a lot of those philosophies as well. So the question is not how can we motivate others, but rather how can we create an environment within which others will motivate themselves. And it does take a while sometimes, but that's exactly where our students get. We have Sophia and Nick and Nadja and Andreas on the photo here, because Andreas gave me the greatest compliment that I've received yet. I've received some great ones, so I apologize if you're like, oh, what about mine? Andreas came here, he came to the spring open house for Sophia. They were coming to check out the program, then he came back to the graduation. So he was a member of our community, still is of course, but he lives far away. And he came to those two events, and at the graduation he came up to me, and he said, Jay, I've never, and he's traveled the world, he's done a lot of really interesting things. He said, I've never been to a place where every single person feels totally comfortable being who they are. Every single person. The students have their own way of describing what we do here, but terms like non-judgment, support, those are the kind of things that people, I think the language that they use, but it's very different. It's very different than most places out there, not necessarily different from your homes, but the institutions that exist, I've been in many of them, what we do here is quite distinct. Okay. Just for the record, not real data. These are fake data points that I put on this graph. The purpose of this graph is to help people understand, because people often ask, Jay, who's this program for? Well, they ask me or they ask others. And if we have on the y-axis here, y-axis, academic achievement, and then on the x-axis, social, emotional, self-management skills. These are the kind of the two components I would say that we talk about mostly in our society as they relate to students. We have people who are very high in both. We have people who are lower in both. We have people everywhere in between in our students. So oftentimes what happens nowadays is people think, oh, there's a deficiency with this person, they need a gap year. It's ridiculous, in my personal opinion, but if there are deficiencies, we're happy to try to support those people in that process. But the reality is that there's lots of people who just want to take time, who would do fine in university or college if they went, but they want to take time to figure out who they are and make the best decisions they can at this stage for the next step. So it's really important that people hear that, I think. And we do have students who are all amazing, but on these parameters, they vary significantly. Any questions on that stuff? There'll be lots of time again for questions at the end. Is there a question on the line? Just someone saying hi.
Lauren says sounds a bit wobbly. I don't know what that means.
Wobbly? How's that now?
The mic is kind of cutting.
It's cutting out a little bit, I know. I gotta stop touching the bottom. Yeah, the students will also tell you that we're working on technical stuff. We're growing and we're still not, I'm not gonna say it's perfect yet. We're working on it. So when? So people often ask, what are the timelines and what's the admissions process? So the first thing is clear that we do not just accept anybody into the program. As you can likely guess at this point, it's very important for us to have a nurturing, caring, supportive, empathetic environment for students who are honest. So we screen students pretty thoroughly. So there's an application form. These details are all on the website. There's a form to complete. It will take 3 minutes. There's a personal statement, 800 to 1,000 words. Just let us know simply why you want to do a discovery year. We're not really going to harp on grammatical errors, and this is not Harvard. but we just want to see the student's interest. Effectively, tell us why you want to do the program. 2 references, 1 academic, 1 community are required, just so we have a little bit of backing for each of the students. And then if you pass that, that's kind of the first part of the process. Then there's an interview, 20-minute, 30-minute interview, either in person or through video conference, just so that we can make sure that the students will be a good fit. Basic timelines, not much different from university and college. January 20th is the deadline for the first round of applications. This year, I have no idea. We haven't filled up after the first round in previous years. It may be different this year. I suspect that we may still have a little bit of space. It's kind of the cap of students is flexible at this point. It's not going to be 100, but it'll be potentially more than 26, up to maybe about 50 for next year. We will see. But January 20th, I suggest if you know you want to apply to the program, get it in before January 20th. If you're uncertain, there will probably be spots after that, but I can't guarantee it. February to May is when we have our interview period, and then we also are continually accepting other applications until June the 9th, supposing that we don't fill it. Questions on admissions? It's kind of the dry stuff, but and dry literally also. Yeah. Yes.
What would an example of a community reference be?
Community reference, good question. So what are those? They're sometimes family friends, they are coaches or counselors, something that's outside of the school system. Sometimes it's an educator who you also work with on a club team or something like that, but it could be anyone. It's fine if it's a family friend as well. Somebody who knows you well enough to, there's a form and then a letter is requested. So they'll rate you on a number of different criteria. Program timelines. Okay, so a lot of people, again, I'm not going to go into too many details on this because it would take a long time. The program is quite specific, but it is a one-year program, which is important for people to know. We start one kind of short session at the very end of June, but our actual programming starts in July. So this year, it's not determined yet, but it'll probably be a 5-day orientation period around the second week of July. And in that period, students get to know each other, which we learned this year. We're going to emphasize more. A little bit less learning, a little bit more connecting in that first week. But in that first week, they'll learn some things, of course. It's the very basics of the job search. We're helping them understand how to proactively and effectively go out and get a job. And they're also meeting other gappers, other Discover Year students in that period. That'll be here in Ottawa, even for folks outside of Ottawa. We'll invite everyone to come for that period so that everyone can meet. So the July and August, then there'll be a couple of things in August, but it's more sporadic. So there's a 5 days in July, and then there's life path coaching sessions, but again, some people are traveling in the summer, some people have jobs. So those can be virtual meetings as well with your coach. And then in August, there'll be potentially one kind of intensive weekend, potentially some online stuff to be determined, but there'll be a couple of things that the students need to be involved in. And the actual kind of regular Discovery Days, which are those Wednesdays that we talked about, those start in September, and the first work term ends at the end of January. One thing also that I didn't specify that's important to specify, if there are 4 Wednesdays in a month, sometimes there's 5, but if there are 4, the basic structure of the program is 2 days. We're here at Pineview. For the folks in the GTA, you're going to be, that will be at the Halton Industry Education Council, which is in Burlington. 2 of the days at that location, that's where we do the workshops, career panels, afternoon discussions. 1 day every month last year we started doing off-site days, so we go into the community and we visit businesses, we go to campuses. So far this year we have been to, in Ottawa, been to Shopify, which is pretty cool. The students thought that was groovy. I don't think groovy is a groovy word, but they thought that was pretty cool. We went to the University of Ottawa, we went to Carleton, we're going to Algonquin next week. In the spring, we'll go to visit Escape Manor, we'll do some escape rooms, and students will put together their own idea of what a good escape room would be. Last year we went to the Humane Society, we may go to a boutique hotel. It really, if the students have interest, we'll go and explore those in the community. But it's an opportunity for them to get out there and see what it's like in different workplaces, different campuses. It's very exploratory. We still have lots of discussion on those days as well. So that's the first work term, September to January. February, of course, is the travel period, which we talked about already. It's a 4 to 6 week window the students have. Could be shorter than that, depending on budget, depending on interests. Those are always conversations that we can have with students. It doesn't have to be the full month. Could be a little bit longer. That's one of the beauties of our program. It's a small program. We can have conversations with students about that to help them understand what might be appropriate for them. And then the second work term is March to the end of June, actually. So it's a 4-month period where some students work the same job, some students change jobs, some students change times like 8 times, jobs 8 times over the course of the year. It all depends. but they're working in those 30 hours a week. We meet our regularly scheduled meetings on the Wednesdays. And then the community service project generally comes kind of at the end of the year, but it could be at any point where the students get together over the course of the year. They plan their project and they implement it by the end of the year. So it really is a full 12-month program. Any questions on the layout? These 5 phases, as we call them? Okay. I'm going to try to speed through a little bit here. Started a few minutes late. So the financing is something that's a bit of a, at least inside me, I feel it's a bit of a touchy subject, but it's important to talk about. So the expected income is represented by the entire pie here on the screen. The Discover Your fees are in green. So as you can see, for anyone who is a reasonably good saver, they should be able to pay for the fees on their own and maybe save a little bit of money. Now, not everyone is able to do that. There's various circumstances, lots of different situations for folks, but it's really important to know that's how we built the model. So we don't have, we're not eligible for OSAP. In my opinion, if you need to borrow money, then we have a bursary fund. We have financial aid available, so it's unlikely that students should need to use OSAP. The way the program is structured, it's a deposit to save your spot in the program, and then it's next year will be a $550 payment monthly over 8 months. So my goal when we structured this was that students can pay for the program themselves. Not all of them do. I don't know who pays and who doesn't, but it's possible for most of them to pay if they work the number of hours that we suggest. So the pie represents, well, it was based on $15 an hour, now it's still $14, but it's around $16,000 I think. Program fees for next year are going to be $5,400, and the travel period generally costs students, which is not included in the fees, that generally costs students an average of $3,000 to $4,000. So you're looking at around $9,000 in costs, plus your normal life costs, and hopefully you students can make around $15,000 to $17,000 in the span of the year. Questions on that? Again, RESP, you can use RESPs, and it's a tuition tax credit, the full $5,400. Financial aid is available, so, excuse me, we based our financial aid on the LICO scale, low income thresholds, and it's available to anybody. We accept students based on their ability to contribute in a meaningful way to the program, not on their ability to pay. And FYI, we're going to be looking for some sponsors, because I think we're going to have some more financial aid to give out, and the pool is empty. So if you know anybody who's interested in sponsoring, keep that in mind for us. Public service announcements. I mentioned RESPs, and those are now, as of January 2018, eligible. I think one thing, though, that is really important to note is in Canada, I've actually had parents come up to me and say, Jay, convince my, as some of you, maybe here thinking, convince my child to do this. I think it's a great idea. My student says that $5,000 is a lot of money. And the parents, sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. But just to put it in perspective, if we talk about programs like Dale Carnegie, if any of you have heard of those, kind of career professional development leadership programs, if we talk about programs at the major university campuses. So Dale Carnegie, I was looking at their price list the other day. Great place, not to denigrate them at all. What they do is great. Full day session there would be $800 to $1,000 for an individual. We do well over 30 days, full days here. That's well over $30,000. Rodman School of Business, I have a friend who is in their leadership program. They meet a few times a month. Over the course of 10 months, roughly 30 meetings, $25,000. I would put what we do at Discover Year and the network of people that we have against literally any program, maybe not Harvard or Yale, but basically any other program you can think of. The quality of what we do here is just as high, and I know people have done them. I'm very familiar with the educational environment, and I don't say that lightly. What we do here, not every student takes advantage of everything that we have because they're not quite near that there yet, but in terms of the value, $5,400 is a sliver of the actual value that students get in this program. The only reason that that number is possible is because there's over 100 amazing mentors who are volunteers, educators. That's the reason that we can offer such a low price. It's just important, I think, for people to know that. In Canada, most of us don't realize tuition is $8,000. It actually costs our society $20,000 to $24,000. So everyone that's paying $8,000, there's another 12 to kind of 10 to 12 coming from government sources, etc. Any questions on the funding? Okay. We're in Ottawa and Toronto, the GTA, I should say, so we'll be operating out of Burlington. That's pretty straightforward. The program in Toronto this year has 2 students. We're aiming for 20 next year. And the last note before I stop talking and you can all chat with each other at the tables is Discovery Year is about doing it the right way. And over the last 3 years, pretty much every time we have a booth or we have a presentation at a school, there's at least one family that comes up and they say, oh, Jay, there's not a lot of people that say it's a bad idea, first of all. But people say, oh, this is such a great idea. Do you have a week-long program? Can you do this in a weekend? Is there some online thing that we can do and can get on? The answer is absolutely no. And the parents in the program this year can tell you that they're still early days in the program, but it is a process. And we don't have a huge sample size, but the 8 students that have graduated, like I said, the proof is in the pudding. It's a 1-year process for all of our students generally. And at the end of that year, they make huge gains, but they do need time. So it's really important to understand that this is a process that works for us, and it does take time. That said, we will go to the discussion groups now. I just threw up a couple questions here. Obviously, sometimes it's intimidating to ask questions in large groups. So you have the students at the tables. There are Discover Your current or former students at Intermingled. There are also Discover Your parents, mentors at other tables. So we'll give you about 30 or 40 minutes to just chat amongst yourselves, the parents and the students that are in the program. Now they can guide the conversation a little bit. And have fun with that. Online, I'll let you know. We'll come back and we'll hear from a few students in a larger group. But online, Lauren can let you know there'll be a few different breakout rooms. She'll give you the details on that. So have fun at your tables.
I'm the red dot.
So like, off the bat, do you guys have any questions?
So just tell us a couple minutes, what did you get up to during Discovery Year? What did you learn? How did you think it's helping you now that you're at university?
Okay, yeah. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh my gosh. I can't see anyone, but so I decided to do Discovery Year. I'm trying to remember, it was a little while ago, but I think I was a pretty typical person in high school. Like, I had no idea what I wanted to do, like really no idea after high school, but I knew kind of, or I didn't know, but I kind of assumed that I would go to university because that's like what everyone does. But I was super stressed, and I really didn't want to make a decision at that time. So when I heard about Discovery Year, I thought it was a really good way to like have a chance to think about it, to explore my options, to to talk to more people and make a better decision. So that's what I did, and I had a really good time at Discovery Year. I learned so much about myself, and I learned so many skills that I didn't learn in high school, or I didn't learn in high school. So like the workshops are amazing, and I know Jay's mentioned them, but they're all the things that you should learn, but that no one actually teaches you. So Discovery Year is awesome, and you meet so many people. You learn how to network and to like. If you're interested in something, you learn to pursue that and to find someone who's knowledgeable about it, and to ask them if they can teach you, which they're happy to do, especially in Discovery Year. So it's really awesome. I went for a month and I traveled to Vietnam, which was like life-changing. And I got the travel bug, and I'm going to travel again this summer. And now I'm at Concordia University in Montreal. I'm studying political science, but I'm exploring my options still, so I'm doing a lot of electives, and I really enjoy my philosophy class. So I'm probably going to minor and or major in philosophy as well. That's kind of what I'm thinking of doing, and yeah, I really enjoy school. I've never missed a class. I'm usually not late to class, which is different from other people, and I'm having a great time. How was that, Jay?
That was awesome. See, we're talking about feedback, right? Yeah. Okay. If you were in the program, Isaac, I would have said be more prepared next time. Not asking me what to do now, but I appreciate your situation, and it looks like your room needs to be tidied, young man. That's your roommate, of course. Yeah. Thanks, Isaac. So, and actually, it's important to mention too, so one thing that's I think is important and cool about our program is that the way that the format was changed slightly this year. Last year, I wanted to give everyone the chance to talk first, and then we did the information session. Isaac last year, right at the end, he came up to me and he's like, Jay, I don't think this format worked, here's why. Because people didn't know what to talk about yet, because we didn't tell them about the program. So this year we changed it. We often implement the changes that students suggest, not all of them, but every week they complete evaluations, they hand them in, and they are very honest with us about what went well, what didn't. And we make changes to the program based on our critical thought as to what's valid and what's not. And we've made a lot of changes this year based on their feedback. And that's an important lesson, I think, that actually Naja mentioned to me, is they're involved in the process of continual improvement. So thank you, Isaac. It's awesome. Happy to see you there. Sorry, I'm just going to make you the big, yeah, there we go. So there you go. So just tell us, like, what did you experience in Discovery Year, what you're up to now, how do you think the program helped you?
Oh, okay. So going into the Discovery Year, I was actually, well, as you said earlier, I'm a very creative person. So, but I'm also very good with my hands. I love to build things. So going out of high school, I always wanted to get into aircraft technicianing. But during my last year of high school, I was taking co-op at Young and Steels Ford Lincoln. So I had actually ended up working there for a year. After that year, I figured out, well, I wanted to go to school, so I had to leave my job to take a summer school course in for sciences so that I could get my prerequisites. And then a little time after that, my mom wasn't very well in health, so I took a little time to take care of her, and afterwards I had applied for school, and I actually got accepted to Confederation College for aircraft technicianing, the program I wanted. And my mom actually came up to me because my aunt had told her about this program. And I had to choose between either taking another year off, a third year off of high school just to take a gap year program, or to go into the field where I've always wanted to get into. So, yeah, after a long debate, we came to the conclusion that, you know, taking the time might be good for me. So, going into the program every single Wednesday, every single session, Jay would tell you, I always was on top of getting that book done, reading that book, that aircraft technician book, just so I could kind of get to where I wanted to be. But when I left home, I wasn't very, I didn't feel good about my environment in terms of, like, I had my friends, I couldn't perform. It's not that I couldn't, I wasn't comfortable, and I had so many things on the go. And then after we took our trip to Germany, me and my cousin Josh, who will speak later, it just opened my eyes in terms of, like, the world and how things work, and if you want to do something, kind of just to go out and do it. So as soon as we came back, I told Josh, the second I touch back in Toronto, my life is going to change. I'm going to go right back to work, and I'm going to get art. Being an artist is all I want to do. So it was just in my veins. And then at the end of the program, I said bye to everybody, and I just knew that when I got home, I was going to do a lot of things. And today, I'm so blessed because I had meetings with 28 counselors at the during the Toronto Arts Day, and we raised the Toronto Arts budget by $2 million for the city planning in 2019. I work for the National Film Board of Canada as a TA. So, and this is about my 6th month there. So, yeah, I love my job. I love where I work. I go to Toronto Film School for acting, and I was just actually awarded academic distinction. Yeah, I love what I do. Every single day I wake up, I go to school, I go to work, I come home, I go to the studio where I also go work at, and I just love every single day. And I wouldn't be in this position if I didn't take this program and take the time to decide what I wanted to do with my life. So currently I'm working on a new documentary. It's called Free People, and I just released my EP. I'm working on a new one, and yeah, there's a lot of projects on the way. And thank you for is that good, Jay?
I'm so happy. Here we go again, you're gonna cry. But it's so inspiring to see all the students, what they're doing now. So thank you, I think that's all the folks that are the students that suggested that they were gonna share online. So we have some students here, just stay where you are, we'll bring the microphone to you.
So hi, my name's Anna. I'm currently a student at Discovery Year. And I started to do Discovery Year because I was really unsure of what I wanted to do. Throughout high school and school in general, I was good at math and I was coached, like, be an engineer, do it. But I really wasn't that interested in it. And the one thing I did enjoy was theater production, but there was also a lot of doubt because how do you get a career in theater production? So I took a year, I took a break, took time to figure out what I really like, what my passion is, and also to kind of build my life and career skills so that whatever I choose to do, I will be better equipped for it. So currently, right now, I've had a job just as a cashier at Food Basics for a bit more than a year, and at the beginning of September, I took another position there, which was a bit more technical and advanced, and just yesterday I told my boss I'm resigning from cashier because just one of my friends had this other job opportunity for a month at one of these little pop-up shops, and I said, I'm just going to take this opportunity, it's something new. I really like learning and trying new things, and Discovery Year has given me the time to do that. On the side, I'm volunteering with 2 different theater companies in Ottawa. I am borrowing my friend's psychology textbook because it just seems really interesting and I want to learn more. I'm going to New Zealand in February with my new friends Bridget and Claire. I met them this summer and I wasn't sure where I wanted to travel. I had some ideas and they said, we're going to New Zealand, want to come with us? And I was like, why not? Because when am I going to get an experience, like the opportunity to travel with these 2 people or 2 just amazing people that I'm really excited about? Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Evan. I am a former graduate of All Saints High School and I'm currently employed at Sobeys as a grocery clerk. And the reason why I took Discovery Year was that I didn't really know what I actually wanted to do yet, like after high school, because I feel like 17, 18, I'm sure everyone here can agree with me, it's a pretty young age to know what you want to do, right? And
Right.
So that's pretty much why I did Discovery Year, because originally I had applied for Algonquin College to study general arts and technologies, but I didn't really want to go into something that I wasn't really too sure about doing in the first place, because I feel like I might waste a little bit of money, and I thought that Discovery Year would be so much better for me also, because traveling is also a passion of mine. I'm going to Central America with another one of my new friends in the program, Josh, who could not make it today, sadly. And so far what I've learned in the program, there's not way too much to say yet because I've only been in it for like 3 months. But what I have learned about, or what I have learned in the program so far, I think the main thing is communication skills, especially interview skills, because one of the first workshops that we've done that Jay has taught us was getting a job, because it's kind of the first thing that you need to do in the program. And he taught us how to do job interviews, like what to say, what not to say, and how to basically ace a job interview. So I don't get scared whenever I go and apply for jobs anymore. So I feel a lot more comfortable talking to employers, whereas in the past I would always like study for like, I don't know, 5 days before my job interview, just because I was like so nervous and I really wanted to get the job and everything, but now I don't even stress about it. I basically just go in and improvise and nothing really goes wrong.
For the record, we don't encourage it. Let's just be very clear about
So hi, I'm Phoebe. I'm also a current Discover Your person. So why I went into Discover Your? I come from a little bit of a different background. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly what program I was going to take, but I knew I wasn't ready yet. So I was already planning to take a gap year before I was introduced to Jay. And I was, just going to work full time, save up the money, never go on OSAP, and, succeed through life. But then I met Jay, and then I was like, wow, this could be really beneficial to me. So my whole life, at least a large portion of my life, I've struggled with many different mental illnesses, which has really struggled with me to pursue post-secondary education. So for me to stand up here today is a very large accomplishment for myself. That being said, Discover Your has really helped me not only learn how to be more confident in myself, but also be able to share, my own experiences with each other, as I find I'm myself. And I just love the environment, I love being at Discover Your, and I just like how I can make friends with people who actually care about me. And that is the environment that I want to share with all of the parents here, is that each Discover Your candidate, even the ones from past, are so accepting, and they really love you here. And that is the environment that I hope to take on with me through post-secondary education.
My brain, who wanted to share the parents? I know Klaus did for sure. Let's start with you. I can't remember. I'll have to look at my list. So for parents, what we see in the program, just your thoughts in general.
Test one. Here we go. Discovering Your program, I found out about it 3 years ago when Jake ended up being in high school. When I was in grade 11 at that time, and she was sitting beside me, and we saw this program. I said, well, what do you think about that? She said, nah. It's about the typical response. But one of the things that I got from our session at the table tonight is that as parents, we care about our kids. We love our kids. We want them to do well. We want them to be able to succeed in what they want to do. We all recognize that 17, in some cases, is a real young age to try and decide what your life path is going to be. And there's some reminiscing about, 13 was that good chance. But we're in the situation we are nowadays with the way the school system is. And I'm an engineer. I like to see things in black and white and problem solving and these types of things. My wife is a nurse in the healthcare field. Neither of our kids wanted to pursue either of those professions. And we could give advice in those areas, but when it came to some of these other areas, it was very difficult for us to say, well, these are the things that you need to consider, and these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of the program. We just didn't have that experience to go back on. And having this year to go through and explore some of those options that you could do, and finding other things like the psychology just sort of blew me away. What is psychology? But I think this is great. It's empowering our kids to explore in a safe environment, to make some mistakes, and to get some real life lessons that could be some really hard lessons in first year in university or college or wherever you may go. One of the things that really drove my approach to my children's choices and careers is a very negative experience I had when I was in military college. They had somebody try to commit suicide because they did not want to be there, but they were forced to be there because that's what the family did. And I took an oath to myself at that time that I would never put my kids in that sort of position. So, students, go out there. It's a chance for you to succeed in a world environment.
Alma, I think, wanted to share as well. I don't want to put you on the spot, Alma, but yeah, do you mind coming up here? Maybe that's easier. One thing, too, that's important to note as well that, I could, as you may have noticed, I could talk for days. But one thing that's important to note tonight is that we talk about very real, very serious things at Discovery. Sometimes it's sad and it's hard. Sometimes it's sad, hard, and then immediately happy afterwards. But we do talk about these things. We talk about the Me Too movement, and we have people share their thoughts on what that is. We guide them in the discussion from our perspective about what's important in these topics. But they learn to actually think about them because, and I think you probably know this, but there's very few people that talk to them directly about Indigenous issues, about diversity and inclusion in the workplace, about race, about white privilege. So they see these things in the media occasionally, but we talk about them in a very real way here, and that's important for people to know. And it's very clear to me that a lot of young people, certainly outside of the home, are not having these conversations, and they learn a lot on that topic. So thank you. Alma?
Hi there, I'm Alma. I'm Joshua's mom. Unlike the new parents and the parents from last year's students, you have the opportunity to listen to experiences of current students and past students. I didn't have that opportunity. Neither me or Maura had opportunity. So it was, when Joshua came home with the idea, I'll be very fast. When he came home with the idea, we were very, very skeptical about what he was trying to explain to us and sell to us by Joshua telling himself.
Said it was a scam.
Just for the record, I'm like, it was a scam. It's real. I said it's a scam, there's no way, because of this and all that. Anyways,
I think it's touchy.
Anyway, when I went to the first meeting, I thought more. And I work for the same company. I work for Terry. So when I saw her, and I asked her, I said, are you here? And she said, no, I'm a mentor. I'm like, okay. So I got my first easy feeling when I saw more, a familiar face. And then the session itself was like this, much smaller than this, and it went really, really well. At the end of the session, I had heard from potential mentors, one gentleman who wanted to buy his mobile bike to fix his company, and for the people, and then we will sort of continue to that point. Fast forward to today, my son Joshua was in the entire program, and my nephew Kamal, you should learn about. I was his mom's sister. He said, come to Ottawa. He left Toronto, come to Ottawa to do the program. So they had each other as company, and they went to Germany together as well, and they went to Denmark. When I saw the difference in my son to Joshua, it's a big difference. He was very shy when he left school. When he left school, he was very shy. He didn't know what he wanted. He really didn't know what he wanted to do. At the end of the program, he was very convinced. He wanted to do computer science and psychology because it sort of encompassed both of his interests. So he sort of, put them both together. He went to Germany on his own. I was very nervous. I was very scared. Most of the people he's going to New Zealand by himself. He's very far. You can drive to help them if something goes wrong. And so on. And they survived, and he came back, and his eyes opened to how different in Europe. He wanted to go back to do 6 months of school there at some point. And I saw him having financial enough classes and he was taking still some time. He knows what to do. He writes a resume. He's very brave. He's very confident. Like this program, I'm telling you, I overstate a true meaningful, enriching program for kids, especially those who don't know what they want to do, or those who do know what they want to do, like this young lady, but just get a little help from people who have experienced it, the mentors are here, and good medical people who really truly care about the students and their success. So I always tell Jay, like, I always come to this event, really Joshua is gone, and call me, I will come back, and I was able to get on this program and truly embrace it. The kids should work and pay their way, so it's not jobs, not the parents, responsibility financially. The kids have to be empowered to take care of themselves. It's a start to becoming an adult. So make them work, go to work and pay the program, take care of your expenses when you go to the trip, save up the money, and when you start post-secondary or whatever plan to have in the future, you are very well prepared for what life has to offer. Thank you.
Sorry about the microphone. We are working on the technical stuff. And I think there might have been a couple other people that offered to share. If you don't mind, we've got 10 minutes left. I'd like to make an opportunity available for, sorry again, but you can maybe answer some of the questions that are directed. Anybody have any questions for either for the students, or for myself, or for, there are of course some mentors, some of you met some of our mentors and coaches who joined us as well. Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Ian, we're going to questions if you don't mind.
Okay, I don't have video on. I can still do my thing if you want.
I think we need to just go to questions, unless, let me just see if there are questions. If not, I'd love to hear from you. Anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? No pressure? If not, okay, that's fine. A lot of information, I understand. Oh, Nadja.
I have a question that is kind of restated.
You'd like to? Okay. If there's no questions, maybe we'll hear from Ian, and then Nadja will be able to share as well. So Ian, let me just get you on the screen here, if you want to turn your camera on. And there you are. More than grooving. All right. The floor is now yours.
Okay. Anyways, so when I first discovered it was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something along the line of a first responder. I had Coast Guard, Navy, and RCMP officer in mind. Coast Guard was kind of iffy, but I decided not to do that. So my two were RCMP and Navy. I'm still working on both of those. But the reason I'm not able to go further than them is because the trip I went on, I wanted to go across Canada, which is great. I went for 3 weeks with my girlfriend. We had an amazing time, except for the third day, I busted my knee, and I'm in 12 months of physiotherapy for every week. It's great. So after that, then I'm able to continue my applications. All right. Next.
What are you up to now, in between?
Okay, so it's going to be about 4 words here. I work at Deca Home Hardware Lumberyard Distribution Center, and my title is even bigger than that. I'm super.
If you could guess, he brought a lot of humor to the program. Anything else?
Yeah, I almost probably might. Charlie, he does not know how to use technology, and I don't know how to use words, so it's all good from there. Anything else?
That's the electronic version of mic drop, I guess. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Ian. Always an adventure. All right. I guess so. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, though. How about a round of applause for Ian? Also. Okay, and oh, sorry. Let's just get this up. Okay, Nadja.
Hi. just a couple of quick things. I did miss the beginning, so but I was thinking of a few things that weren't touched on while I was here. If there's any hesitation around the cost, another thing to bear in mind is once they've done this program, they're more likely to know what they want to do and get it done and not have that year or two of changing their minds. So that's also something to bear in mind. I talked to a lot of my friends, and it's not a 4-year program. So we definitely say, yeah? Okay, what's working?
No, I think someone just used the mute online on this stuff.
Sorry, anybody online, if you could just mute, we can hear some people typing. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, the other amazing thing about this program is the pacing. So in a nutshell, what these students accomplish in a year would take them 2 or 3 years if they weren't doing the gap year on their own, if it wasn't structured. Having the regular Wednesday meetings just keeps the tempo going and really stretches them and pushes them to accomplish a lot more than if they had 12 months looming in front of them and had all the time in the world to do the things they wanted to do in a gap year. Not only do the students learn, but the parents learn. And it's an amazing process for us as well. And we end up having a much stronger bond with our kids, and that's amazingly valuable as well, long term. And the last point, so like top line, it's for life. So, we hear, I sit through parent meetings and it's like, oh, I noticed this difference in my son, or oh my God, my daughter this, and I was like, I'm not really noticing anything. It's for life. I slowly start to see the things from my daughter who was in the program last year, and I see that it's a fundamental change in her and her self-awareness and her self-confidence that's just going to grow every year more and more. So it's not fast-tracking her through 2 years or getting her on top of things. It's a foundation that's going to help her through life. And I've really heard the same thing from other parents, and I've seen that with my son as well.
Yes, so Maxim obviously then is a Discover Year student this year. We learned about the program from close family friends when we were visiting Ottawa last Family Day weekend. She worked in Colonel By, and Jay and one of that year students came in to speak. And it piqued our interest. Maxim, I think, might be a little bit different from some of the students. He did 2 years of electrical engineering at university, and then decided to pause because wasn't sure that was where he wanted to continue his efforts. It's a lot of time and money if you're not sure. So the Discovery Year just sounded like the perfect option at the perfect time. Now we're in Ajax, which is just east outside of Toronto, so Maxim's doing the program in a bit of a hybrid format. He attended the 2-day orientation sessions in July and August, and he's attempting to get to Ottawa at least once a month if he can for the Wednesdays. And if that doesn't work because of work schedule, he's been participating virtually. So it's been very positive. There's been I think it's been, as the previous parent said, an education for both the parents and the students. I think it teaches us that there's a huge positive influence, but it takes time and patience on both sides, and it's a process, and it's a growing, them growing as people and us watching them and supporting them. I think for the kids, we always want more for them than we had for ourselves. This was an opportunity that was afforded me when I was that age, so I think it's just an amazing opportunity. So we're currently just encouraging Maxim to do a little bit more planning for the trip. His plan is to go to New Zealand, so we learned that we're different too, so we have to let them be who they are and have their own experience. Even though that differs from our own personal habits or I don't know, I can't think of the word I want to say, so I'm not sure if that's exactly what you're looking for, but I highly encourage and recommend the program. It's been a fantastic experience thus far, and just look forward to seeing how things continue on to grow. It's like watching something blossom.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Yes. How does it feel to get applause from like 400 kilometers away? That's pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Okay, great. So if there are other questions, I'll be around. Certainly if you have questions you'd like to ask me directly. But a couple of things that I would leave you with. Number one, my favorite part of these evenings is to watch the parents when their children are speaking. It's amazing to see their faces light up. That's why I do this. And of course, the students are important too. The other thing is I'd like you to ask yourself, how many 18-year-olds do you know that would stand up in front of 80, 90 people and be able to articulate themselves like that? I know a lot of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, not a lot of them would be willing to do that. So, or even just to have the initiative to come here, as many of them didn't even speak because they chose to do the roundtables and we didn't have time for everyone. Just the fact that they chose to be here for this, I emphasize no one was paid to be here, just to be clear. So I'll leave you with that, and if you have any questions, come in and see me, but I'd love to see you all through the application process. Thank you to our coaches, our mentors, our students, our parents for coming and supporting us as always, and thank you to all of you who have the courage to come and explore something new and different. Thank you, happy holidays.